Hello, and welcome to Economy of Trust Show. Today, my guest, Alex Sheyner, my friend and my partner. Together, we're going to talk about our vision, what lies at the core of our vision. It is a blockchain enterprise software we call Economy of Trust Core. It gives the full transparency to all stakeholders because it's based on blockchain technology. Exciting interview, support our show. Thank you. Till next time. Alex, good morning and welcome to Economy of Trust Show.
Morning, how are you, Henry?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. Alex, obviously, it's you and I been friends and partners for many years now. We worked a lot on Ukraine, and we're going to spend most of our time talking about Ukraine and what we're doing for the country. But first and foremost, I want to basically ask you to give a minute overview of your background and why we are so good together. I guess.
Why we're so good together? Well, you forgot a client, so that was from the previous lifetime in NASA. That's
Correct.
Yeah. So I mean, apparently go way ways back. Our parents knew each other even in the.
Exactly. We didn't know each other, but yes.
Yeah, we didn't know each other at that time either. But our parents connected us, and it kind of went from there. From my perspective, I am a technologist. Been in technology for over 30 years. Been part of the startups, a few of those. Been an officer in Fortune 50, Fortune 100 company on technology side. Worked with the premier consulting organizations such as McKinsey, PwC, and others. So technology has always been kind of a major theme in my life, and I like doing that because the challenges and the complexities that we're trying to solve are monumental, and that's what I like doing. And I'm good at it. So I found my vocation.
Yes, you are very good at it, and I think the reason we work very well because with my wild ideas, you can put them into the proper way of they can be executed.
Well, it's a filtering mechanism.
Anyway, so now let's come back and let's talk about Ukraine. Obviously, we started working way before the war started, but now, since the war started, Ukraine has gained the image that, in my view, today is its biggest asset of the country. But in order for Ukraine to sustain it, the trust factor must be present at every step after the war. So with this, I want to lead you to what we are doing together as what we call Economy of Trust blockchain enterprise software. Give it an overview, elevator pitch, if I may.
So as you mentioned, the trust factor, the perception, and to some degree the past history has always been a concern. And with the war, this shift has been quite drastic. But we always looked at this as a challenge we would need to overcome eventually, because that was built as a part of, at the core of the concept for the economy of trust. The basic principle is straightforward. You know what's going on, you know where it's going, you know why is it going there. You exchange value, and the financial transaction only happens at the end when the services, goods, deliverables have been applied. So basically what we are doing, we are basically taking the idea of financial incentive out of the equation, which it is there, it's in the end, but the whole economy of trust is basically saying that if you're doing the right thing, if you follow the process and procedures, we guarantee the process, we guarantee the folks who we are dealing with, we are the custodian of that, both in terms of the process, in terms of the funds, and that creates a significant value proposition in terms of removing risk from the equation for all the stakeholders, both international and domestic.
Excellent. And now let me take it a little step further. Basically, what you're saying, we're taking cash out of the equation.
So cash is always there, but the cash is sitting in the escrow account, and we basically a custodian is sitting in the bank. As for example, we found in individual projects that cash is sitting in the escrow, static, guaranteed by the multinational banks, or the case may be. is being tokenized in a way that basically saying that you can basically, if I'm putting $100 million in the project, I'm going to create, let's say, 100 million tokens that will be put in the circulation to deliver the project. And only at the end, when the value is delivered, the holder of the token, which basically delivers the services, can go and cash it out. And that takes all of it out.
Yeah, we receive fiat currency, but we're not talking about any type of cryptocurrency. We're talking about technology which has an internal mechanism, what you and I call digital vectors.
Yeah, it's basically it's internal vouchers that guarantee the payment, because the payment is already sitting in the escrow in the bank. So if I have a token, the token is guaranteed by the funds that are already sitting in the multinational account. So the people who are providing services, I understand that as long as they deliver on the end of the bargain, their services, their goods, they will get paid. And that basically takes the whole thing to a different level. And the idea is that it gives us much more ability and granularity how to manage, how to control the project, break into phases. We can do different types of delivery mechanisms. We can engage with that different folks. We can support auctions, marketplaces. All of that becomes much more viable, and it reduces risk all along the value chain.
And my next question is exactly going towards the blockchain itself now. Mm-hmm. The blockchain is obviously a technology that is transforming the world due to its embedded value, in terms of transparency and immutability. So speak towards that in terms of transparency and KYC that with every stakeholder will go through in order to be vetted prior entering the system.
So there you have actually a couple of different dimensions, right? Let's start with KYC, because that's a critical gating factor. Part of the for you to be part of the overall ecosystems, we basically need to know who you are, not only as individual investors, but if we're talking with family offices, sovereign funds, investment companies, they're gonna have to go through. Everybody has to go through the KYC, because if we're talking about international type of banking, banks need to know not only you as an individual, but also you as a company. So if a company A has a set of employees that are part of our ecosystems, we'll be vetting both the company and the employees, making sure that we comply with KYC, anti-money laundering laws, their blocked entities in terms of sanctions. Now, one of my gigs previously was AIG, and AIG, for example, could not underwrite insurance policy for the companies that were on the blacklist. So very similar thing. Very similar thing will be part of this. So basically that KYC AML process is the gating factor for both individual and the companies to come into play into the ecosystem. And that goes for international, domestic, anybody who wants to be in the ecosystem have to go through that period. There's no exception.
So basically, when the company was in the system already, anybody who wants to interact with that company knows already the company went through very diligent KYC and AML process to make sure that
Yeah. Not only that, we are looking to have a regular review cycles. We're going to be automated. So basically, as you can imagine, I might pass to the exam today, but 2 weeks to I could be on a blacklist, right? So there'll be continuous monitoring of that as well, making sure that everybody's staying, keeping their nose clean. And that's the one piece of it, right? Let me go to the blockchain for a second. So blockchain is a technology, right? It basically guarantees that whatever happened actually happened, right? So basically there is a, and you cannot alter the results. So as we are evolving and rolling out the projects and breaking down into components, we understand who's doing what, all the interaction data, all the contracts, all the value exchanges, all of the auctions, all of the marketplace, everything is going on in the ecosystem fully persistent on a blockchain. So basically it means that at any given time, you can go and look at who did what, when, and how, who approved what, when, and how, and why. So all of that is going to be part of the permanent trace that will be part of the record that will be available for both internet, for the stakeholders, or the investors, local companies, governments, grants, because I would imagine we would need to provide them with the reports of what we're doing, how we're spending, and so on and so on. So
at any given,
part of it.
At any given moment, literally.
I mean, at any given moment, yeah.
Correct.
At any given, exactly.
Let me take it to a little bit of a next step. So now, as we coming back, we are working obviously with municipalities, right? So part of the system is, and what you just described allows us to scale the previous work anywhere in the country, meaning specifically related to Ukraine, we want to rebuild the country very fast. So all the documentation, everything that is stakeholders makes available can be available to anybody if they make this public.
Well, that is the goal. We basically initial efforts may be follow the normal development cycle because of documents and the templates and permissions and everything else, right? But once that knowledge is being built out and basically created within the ecosystem, all of that is reusable. So basically, in a sense, if we are going to project A, municipality A, the process of building a factory in municipality A should be very similar to building a similar factory in municipality B. There may be some deviations in terms of the procedures, who they need to talk to, the process of approvals.
80%.
But think about 80-20. We basically want to get to the point where 80% of the required document templates, processes, approval flows, we already know. So when as we go through the cycle, with each cycle we become more efficient. And by cycle means like project, municipality, and so on.
That's time.
Yeah.
Now I want to get into actually business media network, one of our critical projects. And the business media network is the obviously network which we expect to be the largest in Ukraine within 6 months. And I want to start with one part of it, small business, what we call, you and I call showroom of a business, which will be a city showroom for a city, for a project, for a mayor of the country, starting with a business. So speak towards that little showroom. Why is it important for any small or medium-sized business of Ukraine?
Well, first of all, it's presence, right? So basically, I'm here, I'm up, I'm active, I'm running, right? No matter what's going on behind the wall, it's like this is viable and this is operating. In addition to that, BMN, business media, we call it BMN. BMN gives you an ability to actually to project, right? To project your products, your services, not only within your locale, but you can go to the region, you can go to the country, you can go internationally, because BMN becomes a vehicle not only for the intra-country communications within Ukraine, but also it becomes a channel of how the business can basically evolve and expand in international markets. So BMN has a number of different components. It basically provides the broadcast access of knowledge to the different stakeholders outside of the country. Think of companies of World Trade Center we've talked about. That's the level of information distribution we are talking about. And as the people become interested, basically they come back and basically start engaging on a platform. Once they register with the KYC, so now basically can engage and facilitate the transactions of goods and services, products, and so on. So that's kind of one aspect of that. The Mayor's Club is I know it's kind of.
Before you go, hello, I want to stop you here before you go to Mayor's Club, because it's a different part of the story. But I want to come back to the idea of battery of trust, that we're developing those public ratings of business transparency and others. Speak towards that. Why is it important for every business to be, basically rated in the way?
Well, it's like in Amazon. If you want to sell something, you're automatically being rated. If you're a customer who returning the goods all the time, you're being rated, because so do I really want to incur the headache of selling you something knowing that I will come back and incur additional costs? So the concept of the battery, what we call battery of trust, is twofold. So we're going to take KYC and everything out of the equation, right? But if you start talking about quality of goods and services, customer service, a value for the money. There's a number of different dimensions that we could project into that battery of trust in a number of different tiers. And the idea is straightforward. Both the providers of the services and the consumers of the services of the products, very similar. They basically reading each other based on the experience. And the idea is very straightforward. You want to know who you're dealing with, right? If I am running an auction or I want to buy something, right? I want to be only deal with the people who are trustworthy, who can deliver on what the services, the products they provide. And the only way we can efficiently do it, let's go through a self-service where both parties to the equation are providing the rating, and we are just providing the mechanism of how it is basically evolved and mature. So as we mature, there'll be enough momentum to actually to have a more tactical
network effect, some sort of, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And that applies to things like grants, large-scale projects, because who wants to work with? Yeah, exactly. Who wants to work with a provider who is not trustworthy, cannot deliver?
Correct.
And it becomes a natural selection mechanism.
So now onto the next component of Business Media Network. We are on basically very close to finishing. We will have roughly about 1,800 websites for every municipality of the country on the standard template, basically becoming a showcase of every city or municipality of the country, including the villages. So talk about why is this so important?
Well, it's there's I would say that two vectors, or maybe three vectors of how I should be looking at. We've just talked about local presence, right, and international presence. That's vector number one. Vector number two is that, and that's what comes in kind of the local governance and local component of it, in a sense. As the programs are being developed within those municipalities and so on, there will be a net mechanism of how it's going to work in the first place in terms of the investments, but also we are looking at a component of the investment going towards the benefiting the local municipalities, local governments.
Either way.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, as the funds accumulate in their respective accounts, so to speak, now they have an ability to invest in their own municipalities, pull together with different municipalities. I want a bus route between the cities. How are you gonna do it, right? I want to improve the road. So now they become more self-sufficient in identifying funding, prioritizing their own investments based on local needs and what localities need. And the last vector is that the pooling effect, right? Ukraine is broken into a number of different, what do you call this? Oblasti?
Regions.
Yeah. So basically, now you have after the government basically, so you guys are on your own, you're basically planning your own thing, right? Now you actually have an ability for cross-region collaboration on things like energy, fertilizer production, those type of things.
Efficiencies.
So now exactly, because now you're creating a platform collaboration even with internal folks. So basically, if different regions have money they want to pull together to do something for the benefit of more regions, that becomes a mechanism at the higher level.
This is what leads me to the Mayor's Club, right? The Mayor's Club is going to be segue, right? The Mayor's Club going to be the vehicle which will educate every mayor of the country for us. And what we going to be starting doing in the first place, everybody will know about it and learn from it.
Well, so the keyword is educate, right? Because education really needs to be part of it should be a constant theme across the board, not only with the mayors and governments and so on, because that's one aspect of that. So basically, everybody who's on a platform who wants to transact on a platform, right? They're gonna go through educational cycle, basically trying to align the values, value propositions, concepts on the same level. That if I tell you, this is economy of trust, and basically it implies a certain behavior, certain patterns of behavior, certain expectations that are expected across the board. So thinking about it as a major university, municipality university, but all of this is going to be done under the common theme and umbrella. But that's more of the let's call it of the governance piece of it.
Part of what we're doing is developing a system that future can play a real role in creating real-time governance. But it's a long.
That's one aspect of that. The other aspect of that, as we pursue the rebuilding of Ukraine, basically it's ground up. The infrastructure has been pretty much demolished in a lot of different areas. So as we bring in partners that will stand up local facilities to create glass, cement, whatever products are needed to rebuild, these folks will require an educated workforce.
Correct.
Right. So certified, because they'll be bringing their technologies, their processes, all of that to accelerate value creation and so on. So part of education cycle for us is basically taking their knowledge and capturing in a way that basically will allow for faster onboarding and training of the local resources. How do you go from one to another? Then there becomes another avenue for bringing the folks into a different value chain as well.
So my last business question before we come back today is actually out of the left field a little bit, because not a left field, but in a way, but it's part of our vision. But it creates. We're talking about creating what you and I call bioeconomy, which is based on production of biomass in Ukraine, which allows to spend the industries. But that's a different conversation. We'll have different time. But the question is actually about carbon credits. This bioeconomy will allow us to generate carbon credits for the municipalities themselves, which can be used as a financial instrument to develop many type of infrastructure projects they want to do in the future. Speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So biocredits, it's definitely evolving concept, and it's definitely a financial instrument that is being mandated by EU, for example, by the standards they're trying to achieve. It is definitely picking up momentum in the US, and it's just gonna grow. So basically, biocredits is basically carbon credits is basically a concept. Each ton of carbon that's not being released into atmosphere has a value, and that value fluctuates based on the market needs, on demand, and so on. So we see there's a lot of potential value in as is a value appreciation. But why it's important for the Ukrainian municipalities? Because when you look at the current utilization of land, and Ukraine is all about land, wheat, corn, whatever the case may be, right? So right now, as the farmers produce the crops, there's a component of the value they're not capturing at all, because when the thing grows, it captures the carbon. So we have an ability to start looking at that more holistically, where we start looking at, okay, if I have 10,000 acres of wheat, right? Based on a profile of wheat delocation, composition, soil, we can basically say that on an annual basis, a hectare can capture, let's say, 2 tons of carbon credits, right? Multiplied by a number of hectares, you're talking about a massive chunk of change that basically they didn't even know that existed, right?
Icing on the cake, it's free money. It's really free money.
Exactly, it's free money. So, but that creates, another thing is carbon credits has a very distinct value proposition, because typically if they're managed properly, depending on the crop, they can last for 20 years, 25 years. Yeah. So basically, it basically gives you a financial long-term investment revenue stream
Cash
that
flow.
can be used for a number of different purposes. Local municipal bonds, oblast bonds, basically to start funding the projects above and beyond what we've talked about originally. It basically becomes a self-driven mechanism as they put the assets into the program, it generates more and more cash, free cash for the municipality, for the oblast, that is only going to be appreciating the value, giving the foundation to do a number of different things.
It's also going to drive the sustainability overall for the municipality.
And we're just talking about carbon credits, right? We're talking about the free money that just came out of nowhere. What bioeconomy in itself is also a very healthy and very sustainable economic model. We're just talking about biomass, taking the biomass and converting into
bioplastic, biopaper, and everything else. So that's a
separate conversation. Yeah.
Right. So, Alex, thank you so much for your time today. My last question today, as you know, during the war, we as an organization have started United Students of Ukraine, that is focused on supporting working capital for small and medium-sized businesses operating in Ukraine today, which give their services or goods for free. So I want you, as somebody who's been around business world for a long time, how critical it is at this time to support small business of Ukraine with not only the need now, but also looking down the future.
Well, let's put it this way. Look at the economy. Like, let's even pick U.S. economy, right? The bulk of the GDP is coming. Bulk of the employment is coming from the small to mid-sized businesses. So that is the engine and growth for sustainability and other things, right? So that paradigm is pretty much everywhere. It's like what we said: give them a fish today, they'll eat today. But if you fish them tomorrow, give them a fish, they'll be able to eat every day. The same concept in here. And why is it important right now? There's two factors, because war has a huge impact on folks, both in terms of the well-being, mindset, physical safety, the basic needs, and so on. So even though we're registering the businesses to help them out, we are, at least at this point, my recommendation was focused the distribution of the funds on the basic needs, food, medicine, transportation, those type of things. Yes, I know that beauty salons are important, but
right. Well, this is the point of the program we're developing, that is going to be a residual investment of only $100 or euros per company. Yeah. They can sustain many small businesses in Ukraine. Yeah. And I think the critical component that the small business of Ukraine and the medium size will be the early ones. When we talk about big projects, right, building this and that or the other, it's going to
take years.
But the small business can make impact now. That's why it's important now, in my view.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Small business are the roots, right? If you don't have the roots, you can't really do much about it. So no matter project, even if we start the small cities, right? People need to live there, right? So and that is your small business. That's your service. It's your grocery store. It's your gas station. Yeah. That's the small business, right? So when you talk about small business, it's critical to support, maintain, because they will be the ones who will provide infrastructure for growth, even for the new initiatives we are proposing.
Right. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Guys, support us, support our show, and we'll see you soon.